Welcome everybody to a brand new day of CSI 41. So this Friday there will be a sea shanty night. That will be Friday at 4 o'clock here in Discord. You don't have to come anywhere. Just make sure you put on your, I don't know, waterproof jackets and be barefoot. I don't know. It'll be a fun time. Sea shanties are pretty hot right now in 2021, as they should be. I have done shanties for many years. It's a fun hobby of mine. So I will share my love of sea shanties with you guys on Friday at 4 o'clock. If you attend it, that will count as a missing attendance day. If you have perfect attendance, then it will be extra credit added to your homework. So you have to make a copy of RPG 41 in your own directory. You can do anything you want with it. It'll be hand graded. It is not auto graded. But just make sure it's in the RPG 41 directory. Otherwise, I will not know where to look for your stuff. Anyone need a partner for RPG 41? It's due on what, Friday? When does it due? Did I give you guys till Friday? It's like kind professor. Yasashi. RPG 41. Sure, we'll make it due on Friday. 12 o'clock. All right, so if anybody needs a partner still, please post now. I don't want to see people on Thursday night that haven't done anything hunting for a partner. Like, I didn't do anything. Could somebody give me a free grade? No, get your groups assigned now. Okay. So it will be due on Friday at noon. Okay. And it's a fun assignment. You should let your creativity run free. So just message each other on Discord, and it is self sign up for this assignment. I'd prefer you guys work in partners rather than everybody doing it individually, because learning how to pair program is an important part of computer science. I have this sneaking suspicion that a lot of people are going to turn in a solo project, and that's not what I want. Really, it's really not what I want. Okay. Maybe I'll be more harsh on people that turn in individual assignments. That seems fair. Learning how to be social is an important skill in life, and learning how to be social is especially hard for us antisocial computer science majors. So it's good for you to partner with other people. It's harder, yeah, and that's why I understand a lot of people want to do it solo. But yeah, learning how to coordinate with other people is an important skill. All right, let's see if there's anything in this presentation we need to go over. Let's see here. Forcing computer science programmers to be social is socialism. Yeah, you know, if you go to work for a game company, everyone, you're gonna need to be social. You know, like I was actually talking to one of my old friends from the '90s and seen him in Asia. He used to work at Midway. He worked on a game called Hydro Thunder and some other stuff. And I might get him to come in and speak to the game development class. Yeah, you gotta learn to work with other people. Yeah, you're on teams, and the different teams have to communicate with other teams, and sometimes you have managers to handle the interdepartmental stuff for you. But yeah, it's a thing. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. It's Animal Farm reference. Can you go over the curses functions? Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can talk about that today too. All right. So, when I was in college, I took a class called Computer Science 80 at UC San Diego. And it was honestly probably my favorite computer science class. There was only 2 unit classes, considered a UNIX lab. It wasn't even like a real class, so to speak. But it was amazing. And I'm going to go over a little bit of that today. Your next homework assignment will require you to have some Unix skills. So I'm just going to kind of prep you guys for that today. And then I'll answer your questions about incurses and stuff like that. Okay, so Unix is, of course, the world's most popular operating system, the possible exception of Minix, which I don't know if that really counts. But so Unix and Windows are really the 2 most common operating systems in the world. You might say, but what about iOS? What about Mac OS? No, that's Unix. What about Android? Unix. So Unix is kind of it used to be a thing. Like, it used to be an actual product copyrighted by the Bell Company and all this kind of stuff. Nowadays it's more of a catch-all term for a variety of different Unix-like operating systems, and it's just easier to just say Unix. Okay. So Linux is a form of Unix. It's a flavor of Unix. There's a lot of other ones. There's AIX and HPUX and IRIX and Solaris and I don't know. But Linux is by far and away the most popular Unix distribution right now. Is made by a guy by the name of Linus Torvalds back in the day, and he's still maintaining it today, and he's still running the Linux project today. He also made Git, if you've heard of Git. And so, sometimes people use Unix and Linux interchangeably, and that's kind of ignoring all the other kinds of Unix out there, like HPUX and IRIX and all these other things. But since Linux is the most popular, you can probably get away with it. So, all right. So let's... let's learn some useful Unix commands first of all, before we get into that other stuff. Okay, so there is if we go into RPG 41, it's a command called less, and there's also a command called more, and less is more. They more or less do the same thing. And so more will show 1 page of text at a time. Less will show 1 page of text at a time. But you can also scroll back up, so you can use up and down. So, I would just use Vim probably, to scroll up and down. But what's the point of knowing less? Well, the thing is, less can be used to display 1 page at a time from a program. So if you were to run input tester, you know how it pauses when you get something wrong? That's because it's piping through less. Okay, so let's give an example of that. Let's see if I can find some code that doesn't work right. It's hard for me because I'm so good, but let's see if I can find something. So compile, and this should complain. Dang, it's not enough error messages. Let's see, what did I do to get that in? Let's change that from a bool to a string. All right, g++ main.cc. An actual decent error message. There we go. Much better. Okay. That's what I've come to expect. So if you have a template substitution error, then you get spammed with all of the different things that it's trying, and it failed. Okay. So I'm showing this because you will get lots and lots of error messages. And one thing you want to write down and engrave in your brain is piping the results of it through less. And so in Unix, there is this thing called the pipe command. The pipe command. And the pipe command takes the output of one program and puts it into the input of another program. And if you pipe it with standard error, the ampersand there means standard error, then it will send the error messages, which is what we want, to less. And so what this does is, rather than less reading a file and displaying a page at a time, what's happening is that it takes the output of your compilation and feeds the result of it into the input of less. And so this is called a UNIX pipe, and it is a very powerful, very flexible way of stringing together multiple commands. It's one of the reasons why I don't really like Windows very much, because it does have some ability to do this, but it's fairly limited and lame. In Unix, you can sit there and run a command and send the output of one command into the input of another command. And what happens is the cout of one program becomes the cin of the next program. So the second program thinks it's reading from the keyboard. The second program, less, thinks it is reading from the keyboard. And it's not. It's actually reading from the output of another program. So you don't have to do anything magical to get your programs to work this way. All you do is you read from cin and you write to cout, and then you can chain together programs like this in very, very interesting ways. So this is going to take the output of my program and feed it, including the standard error, into less. And so what this will do is allow me to scroll up and down through the error messages. It does get rid of colors, unfortunately. It's kind of annoying. But now I can see the top of the error messages rather than the bottom down below. Alternatively, I can feed the result of this through head. Head is a Unix command that shows the top 10 lines of something, and you can control that with command line parameters. And so this is actually a very common thing to do with error messages as well, because usually the top 10 error messages are all you care about. For example, right here, that's our problem. Okay, so learning to pipe things is very, very important. So this command right here, if you're getting tons and tons of error messages, do that, and that'll show you the top error message. Okay. What is cling? Cling is the same thing as G++, but different. Okay. So cling and G++ are the two main compilers. They're competitors. But cling came after G++, and so it's basically compatible with G++. It takes almost all the same flags and everything else. So they're two competing projects for compiling C++ code. So what else can we do with this pipe thing? Well, what if I were to show you who's online on the server? There's a command called who. Okay, who shows you everybody on the server right now, right? And let's not. Maybe. We pause the stream. I don't know. Anyone can do it. I know. You guys can do it. Yeah, I'm streaming on YouTube right now, though. So yeah. Let's make a dummy file vim who Bob 1 2 3 semi 4 1 2 million 10 10 20. All right, so let's say that these, like when I type who, it's showing this instead. And so who shows the username, their IP address, the last time they logged in, stuff like that. Now, what I can do is I can filter it so I just get the usernames. So imagine I'm typing the who command here, like this, rather than catting who. Okay, so I'm going to pipe the results of this through cut. I'm going to cut field 1 out, delimited by spaces. Huh? You talk fast. What was that? So what I did was I took the result of the who command and piped it through, UNIX pipe, the output of this program, goes into the input of this program. And there's a program called cut, and cut allows you to select certain columns from something. So if you have a big table, a big database, you could cut out just one column of the database. In this case, I'm cutting column 1, field 1. So dash F1 means. And I'm saying it's delimited by spaces. By default, I think it assumes it's tab delimited or something like that, or colon delimited. I don't know. But this says it's a space delimited file. And so if I were to change this to field 2, that would grab the second column, and field 3 would grab the third column, field 4 would grab the fourth column. So you can use cut to grab individual columns out of, column is a table of the database, yeah. And so you can use cut to cut individual tables out of a database. And so, yeah, all right. So now, let's see, then who, let's add some more people in here. Arrow of the hills, and YOLO. Okay. So I need to add some fields here. Okay, so let's say I am cutting out just the usernames. This is actually something I did when I was a TA back in college. I had a shell script that would run, and it would run in a loop. And the shell script would constantly get the names of the people logged in on the server over and over again. And so I would cut out just their usernames, and then I would pipe the results of this through sort. Look at this. So what this says is take the output of this program. The cout of this program becomes the cin of this program. And what sort is, if I run sort by itself, you see it's just reading from the standard input. Okay, A, B, E, F, C, D. And when it hits an end of file, then it sorts all of these lines. It sorts them all alphabetically. See that? So sort is a very simple program. Most Unix utilities just do something like this, where they're just reading from the standard input, because they're not even really supposed to read from the standard input. They're really having stuff piped into them, right? And if you hit Control D, Control D, Control D stands for end of file. Control D, then it reads an end of file, which means the pipe closed usually, and it will sort these things alphabetically. So what you can do is, what's the point of showing all this? Well, you can grab a database, select a column from the database, and then sort the results alphabetically. And if we've got, a lot of times when you've got login information, somebody can be logged in multiple times. And so you'll see Arrow of the Hills appear 3 times. And so we can pipe the results of this through uniq. Uniq removes duplicates. So you can see before we had 3 Arrow of the Hills. Now we've got 1. And this is a really useful thing for you guys to know. Why? Because you can do, you could write this in a, C++, right? Write a file that reads a text file, right? Reading this text file, you could probably do that in, 5 minutes or so. Include fstream, read a word at a time, and you'd have to getline it and turn the result of the getline into a string stream, and then read 1 word at a time out of that string stream, and select one of the words out of it using getline to read out of the string stream, getline using whatever delimiter is passed in here. So you could do it. It's just kind of annoying, or not even annoying, it's just time consuming. And then once you have all of those usernames, then you write those into a vector, and then you call sort on the vector. And then, is there a unique function in C++? Yep, there is. So that's also a little bit annoying to use. Shame you didn't learn it in 41. What was that, Moya? Shame you didn't learn what in 41? So I taught you guys this in 41. And so all that piping stuff, yeah. Didn't I? No, maybe not. I didn't do the keys assignment with you guys. Yeah, it's true. Did I? Okay, I did. Cool. Awesome. I'm a great professor. All right. So all you learned was Figlet message. Yeah. And so what you can do, the point is that there's all of these Unix utilities, and you could do it in C++, but you're talking about, like, I don't know, for you guys, half an hour to do all this. If you knew that uniq existed, if not, you would have to write it yourself, and man, that's annoying. But if you know Unix shell utilities, you can just knock it out like that. Shell utilities are used when you want something fast, easy. It's not especially performant. It's not going to be as fast as C++. But the point is, if you just want to have a list of people online sorted and unique, like, I could just do it like that. There's some really good resources on Unix shell utilities. The one that I used back in the day, and I don't see why it wouldn't work these days, is Sobel book. And so the Sobel book has just one page for each of these different Unix utilities. Let's see if we can find sort. There's uniq right there. And so it just has a page, and it just explains how uniq works. And then the next page has examples of it. What if I wanted to shuffle the results? What if I wanted to randomly shuffle the results? Pipe the results of this through shuff. Okay. And now every time I run it, it will randomly shuffle the results. So there are hundreds of Unix utilities, and all of them are simple, and all of them can be composited together like this using piping. It is really, really powerful and really, really useful. The more Unix knowledge you have, the bigger, the stronger, the more physically fit you will become. Okay, there's a reason why every time you log in on the server, it gives you a link to the Unix tutorial at Surrey. It runs you through this kind of stuff, and maybe you're used to ignoring it, but I wouldn't. This class that I took, CSE 80, like that 2-unit class, it was just on a Wednesday. It was on a Wednesday night. It was like 5:30 to 7:30 or something like that on a Wednesday night, and we just went into this room, and there was this old Unix wizard, who was like up on stage, like his podium was actually like elevated up like this, and so it was like you're like looking up at this bearded genius. I don't think he actually had a beard, but metaphorically he did. And he would just sit there and just kind of like do some Unixy stuff, and he had some handouts and stuff like that. And you just learned Unix from a Unix wizard, And it was and that one class that I took did more to increase my productivity as a computer science person than literally any other class that I took. There's so much repetitive stuff in computer science that I could automate because I knew computer science, or because I knew Unix scripting, that it has saved probably literally years of my life by this point. Okay, so if you you should feel your muscles growing, but also you're going to grow a beard, which if you're a woman, maybe you don't want that, but it's just science. The more Unix you just grow this long, beautiful white beard like Merlin. So if you want to automate this, like if this is a command that I wanted to run over and over again, not with a shuff, but maybe just this part here, then what I could do is I could put this into a .sh file. So I could be like vim who.sh, okay, and I would do a shebang character like this. Shebang is shebang, and then I typically do TCSH scripting because I'm dumb, and you just put the thing in there like that, and so you could literally run a text file as if it was just you were typing those lines into the computer. In fact, I don't even technically need the shebang because nothing in here is really specific to TCSH. You could literally just have this in a text file, and then you could just run that text file, and Unix would actually run that text file as if you had typed it. And so you could literally just have like I'm going to put the shebang back so it's good practice. Echo hi, run hi, listing all people on the server, you know, something like that. And you just put a number of commands on there. And when you run that text file, it will run those commands. And so if you have 5 commands in Unix you do over and over again, just put them into a text file and automate it. Don't type those 5 commands over and over again. Okay. And so the one thing you have to do, like if I tried running who.sh right now, it'll say permission denied. And the reason for that is because I have not given permissions to run it. So I need to do chmod. So chmod is a Unix command that changes permissions. It changes the mode of a file. The mode of a file is the permissions you have on the file. And so I'm going to say the user, that's me, I'm the user. The user is granted execute permissions. X is for execute. So the user is gaining execute permissions on who.sh. Okay. And then if I run who.sh now, it executes. And so it echoes, hi, listing all the people on the server, does all this stuff. Maybe I run figlet, booyah. And so now every time I run the program, it prints booyah, and then maybe I pipe the results of that through lolcat, and then it comes out in rainbow colors. Okay. So, you know, you can make these things as simple or as complicated as you want. And your Unix journey begins basically by just learning what all the individual utilities are. Like, for example, if you want to list all the files in a directory, it's ls, right? And it goes up from there. So the Unix is really neat, and you can automate so much of your life. It's amazing. It drives me crazy anytime I see a computer science person doing something repetitively, like 2 or 3 times. Okay, sure, but if you're going to do something like 100 times, automate it. Or I will literally be like doing this, like, come on, no, come on, automate it, you know. And I had friends who thought it was too hard to learn Unix shell scripting, and so like in grad school, a lot of, you know, I specialized in high performance computing, supercomputers, things like that. And so we spent a lot of our time benchmarking things. And so, you know, what you would do is you would run programs on a supercomputer over and over again, run it on 1 CPU, 2 CPUs, 8 CPUs, 62, 128, 9 million, you know, whatever, CPUs on different problem sizes. So a 1000 by 1000 array, a 2000 by 2000 array, 4000 by 4000, 8000 by 8000, and we would run these runs multiple times so that we would even out any disparities and any spikes in performance, things like that. We'd throw out the highest and the lowest and average the 3 remaining ones maybe. And I had friends that would sit there and run all of these hundreds and hundreds of runs, and the runs would take like 5-10 minutes, and so they'd just be sitting in the computer lab literally the entire weekend. They would be sitting in there going like, okay, all right, now we're going to run a.out on a 1000 by 1000 array with 8 CPUs, you know? Okay, cool. And then they sit there and they wait for 5 minutes. They have a book. They're sitting there waiting. And then, okay, let's run it again on 16 CPUs. And then they sit there and wait for 10 minutes. And then they run it again on 32 CPUs, and they sit there and wait for 10 minutes. And I was just like, my dude, like, come on, like, automate it. Okay, so the Suri tutorial is good. So this is the link. It displays literally every time you log in on the server, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are used to just like ignoring it, but I would go through the entire thing. Just teach yourself Unix. Okay? All of them are useful. Every chapter is useful. Every chapter you learn here will pay itself back in the future, unless you, I don't know, you've got like a terminal disease or something, in which case, you know, don't. That's fine. No, you should. Unix will make you stronger and more physically fit. Okay. So how do you delete text in a window? Control U. Control U will erase the entire line. It kills the entire line. Is there in the window is there a command that acts like a back arrow so that you delete something you get it back? Like if you type this text and you erase it, nah, it's gone. It's gone. Okay, so yeah. So you can just be like figlet pipe through lolcat or pipe through cowsay, and then let's do fortune. Okay, so fortune is a command that by itself generates a random quote. Okay. And so you could pipe the results of fortune through cowsay, which is oftentimes what I have as the message of the day. You two ought to be more careful. Your love could drag on for years and years. Okay, cool. Thanks, cow. And then I can pipe the results of this through lolcat and then colorize it. Gone with the Wind Light by Margaret Mitchell. A woman only likes men, so she can't have, and the South gets trashed. Gift of the Magi Light. Husband and wife forget to register the gift preferences. Old Man in the Sea Light by Understanding Women. An old man goes fishing but doesn't have much luck. There you go. One sentence. And so with Unix, you can just combine things together like that, and it's really neat. It's really neat. So coming back into our presentation, less displays a page of text at a time. grep is so useful. It is so incredibly important and useful. One of the main reasons why people like using Visual Studio instead of Unix is because they're like, well, Visual Studio is an IDE. You know, if you pull up Visual Studio Code, you can search across all the different files in your source code directory, and it's like, yeah, you know, Unix is an IDE too. Unix was literally developed as an integrated development environment. It's literally got everything that Visual Studio has. It's just in text, so it's less immediately obvious where it is, but it's way more powerful. There's way more you can do with Unix, and much more quickly in Unix than in Visual Studio. So if I were to pull up the source code for Quake. So here is the source code for the Quake server. Okay. So if you take my game development class, you'll get to play with like all the source code's released, so you can modify it however you want. I don't care. So what I can do is I can Control-Shift-F, search across all the files. I'm going to see like where is the traceline function defined. And then this is a place where all the different calls to the traceline function appear, and you can see it's here, and so you can read through how the traceline function works on the server. Don't worry about it; it doesn't matter. How do you do that on Unix? So on Visual Studio Code, it was Control-Shift-F to find across files. But let's say that I want to go into Easy Peasy, which is the CD. Which is the shell script. When you type compile, it does a pre-check on your code. Let's say I want to go in there I'm looking at all these things, and I'm like, I don't know where anything is, and I'm trying to find something, right? So let me see. Let's see if I can find where I don't know, like a bad for loop is. Okay, so I could type grep for in star.cc, and that's that command there is searching for the word for across all of the source code. Okay, and of course I'm going to get way too much stuff, right? Like I'm going to get like tons and tons of results, because not only it's going to be like where the word for is, but it's also going to find all of my for loops as well. And so it's like, okay. So maybe I can pipe the results of that through grep for // Cool. So I'm grepping across the file, and it's giving me every place where the word for appears, and then I'm going to search for every file that has for every line that has a comment in it. All right. Well, cool. And and then I could say, for example, only find lines that begin with a comment, right? And yeah, this is actually pretty good, right? So make sure that for loops have 2 semicolons. It's actually what I was looking for, so there's the file. And so grep is extremely powerful. It allows you to search, like, let's just see if the word Lopez appears anywhere within this file. No, it doesn't. Okay, cool. What about TLL? Does that appear anywhere here? Yes, it does. Okay. So Taylor Lang Lopez was my TA. He was the MUIA of 5 years ago. And one of my former students who became a TA. And really smart guy. Really cool dude. And he worked on Easy Peasy with me. I do summer projects with my students every summer. And he wrote all of these cases here. We ended up flying up to Seattle, him and Carla Rumler, and some other students. We presented at a conference. It was really cool. It was really cool. We won the best poster award for it. So Easy Peasy has a distinguished legacy. Bjarne Strustrup, the guy who made C++, he voted for us. Yay! So yeah, and so I can just use grep to search. The syntax is grep, the word that I'm looking for, and then what files I'm looking in. Do you guys understand? Can your project be Doom rendered on a Unix terminal? That's what I want to go with IS50B. The trouble is, like, we have students in the class that aren't really programmers. And so you notice, like, I was going through IS50B, I was like, let's introduce, like, how to do complex holes and all this other stuff, and binary space partitions. And all of a sudden it's like, let's write an essay. And that was because I had a couple students drop out because they couldn't program. So I do want to get back to that. I do want to do I do want to do Doom in the terminal for sure. This is definitely a stream I'll be rewatching and taking notes on. Good. Yeah, I am talking fast because this is an entire semester's class, and I've compressed it as much as I can. But in general, this is a tool you guys are going to need to get used to because real projects have multiple source code files, right? If I type ls, you can see there's all sorts of files in here, not just main.cc. And if you're inside of main.cc, you can use / and search for things, in Vim. But when you're searching across files, you use grep. So Carl Rumler, let's see if that, yeah. And so I can see which test cases were made by Carl Rumler, which were made by Taylor Lang Lopez, which were made by other students. And the general syntax is grep, general regular expression pattern, I think it stands for. The keywords you're searching for, and then the files you're searching through. And so I can also search through header files if I want. All right, nothing there. And grep, this is just the basics, like the most basic example of grep. Grep is actually a very complicated, very neat tool, and you can do really nice things with it. Man is the man page, the manual page, so you can man grep, and that shows you all the different command line parameters it takes. Do you want to ignore case? Do you want to not ignore case? Find everybody that's not me. Find every line that doesn't have KR in it, which is going to be a lot. Look at that. Yeah. Okay. Very useful though if you're trying to remove a string pattern. Like if I type ps-a ps-aux pipe through grep wkerney. So what this is doing here. So ps is a command that prints all of the programs running on the server. Okay. This prints basically all the commands running on the server currently. And I don't care about all the commands running on the server. I care about my commands. And so you'll see that this is showing all the different processes that have that are by wkerney, or in this case, roots running a program. That's probably the daemon for my login here. And so let's say you've got a process that's out of control. You can use the process command ps and get the list of all of the programs on the server and grep wkerney. And the trouble with this is that the grep actually shows up in the list. And so if I don't want that showing up, I can pipe the results of that through grep -v wkerney, or grep, even better, grep -v grep, and then that erases. You guys see that? So it says match everybody that doesn't include the word grep in it. And so that can get rid of the grep that you're grepping. Yeah. And so why do you care about this? Well, because there's a Unix command called kill. So let's say that one of your processes is out of control. Then you could do a kill -9 3604, and well, it's already over because that was the PS, but that's how you kill a process that's out of control. Okay. And so when you know Unix, you can do things like this, just like that, and give me a list of all processes, and it'll show you how much CPU time they're eating up and stuff like that. And that one's out of control, and then you kill it. Yeah, and so just knowing grep is like one of those must know things if you're going to be a developer on Unix. It's far more powerful than the Control-Shift-F find in file, which just does basic keyword matching kind of stuff. Grep is amazing. It's really, really cool. Ignore count. So grep -c was it, tll star.cc. So this shows you how many times the word Taylor Ling Lopez appears in these different files, right? Very useful if you're going to give credit to people and stuff like that. Show files that match, show files that don't match. Man, yeah, you could do a whole lecture on grep. Well worth learning. Muyak, you find the Sobel book. It's way out of print. It's old. It's outdated. But all the Unix utilities are still the same. It's the Mark Sobel Practical Guide to Unix Systems. I picked it up. Used. There. I picked it up used back in the 90s, and yeah, all the basic Unix utilities are still the same. More options now. Grep's got more options than it used to have. But if you're going to learn the basics, what I did was I bought that book for like $5. I don't know, back in the day. And every day I would just flip it open to a new page and just try messing with that Unix utility. And over time, it's like learning Japanese, right? You got flashcards, just learning and internalizing all the different Unix commands. Is the server we dedicated to our class, or is there other stuff on there as well? It is actually my personal Linux box. I have created accounts for you guys on my Linux machine. The school does not have a departmental server yet. It's something that I've wanted for ever since I started working here, but the school has never purchased a server like normal colleges have. And so Courtney Choate, the department chair, her husband works in IT. He donated a very nice Xeon server with like 170 gigs of RAM or something like ridiculous like that of RAM to the college, and so we're setting that up, and maybe in the fall we'll have an actual departmental server. This is just mine. How powerful is it? Not very. It's two CPU machine, 2 core machine, 4 gigs of RAM, 100 gigs of hard drive space. Like it's a pretty pathetic machine. The reason for that is because it's not real. It's not a real machine. This is from a company called Linode. So if you guys want to get your own Linux box to mess around on, there's a company called Linode, and they sell virtual Linux boxes. And let's see, view pricing. The lowest end thing, yeah, for $5 a month, you guys can get a Linux box. And this is a Linux box that runs inside of a very, very high-speed data center in Fremont. Okay. Gig of RAM, 1 core, 25 gigs of hard drive space. It's like it's not a great machine, right? But 40 gigabits a second, man, like that's pretty fast, right? And so this is you get a fraction of a machine that sits virtually in Fremont, and so I pay for this one here, $20 a month. That's just my personal Linux box. It's my daily driver. It's what I do all my development on and things like that. And it's not real. It's not a real machine. You can't touch it. I used to maintain my own Linux boxes. In fact, I technically still do. On the wall behind me, I've got a Raspberry Pi that's running the class server for CSI 45. I've got that as well. But Yeah, running your own Linux box kind of got annoying after a while because, students would connect to the server and it would it'd slow down my Valheim or whatever. So, yeah. $2 for a used copy of the Savell book. Yeah, I definitely go through that. Yeah, so if you wanna learn Linux, Linode, $5 a month, pretty good way to start. If you're going to be a computer science major, there's two branches, right? There's Windows and there's Unix, and maybe you pick which one you're going to be, right? A lot of people choose to be Windows developers, and that's fine. But Unix is so popular that Windows now supports Linux, right? So there's now what's called the Windows subsystem for Linux. So you can literally install Linux on your Windows machine. That's how popular it is. And WSL. And so if you don't want to spend $5 a month for a real Linux box, you got a Windows machine, install that, and then you can have the experience of running your own Linux box without paying for it, which is nice. Okay, so do you teach a class on server or server box? That's the idea. So now that we've hired a new computer science professor here, I'm going to propose starting a class on Unix for that reason. You're getting just the tip of the iceberg here. So diff compares two different files. That's how the autograder works. The autograder works by running your program and diffing the results of it with my program. And if they're the same, you pass. If they're different, you don't. Okay. It does things like ignoring case and ignoring white space and things like that. So if there's minor differences, I'm fairly tolerant and I allow it. Move and remove, you guys should know these. This moves one file to another. This deletes a file. I'll spend 10 more minutes on Unix and then we'll move on. Sobel book, $5. Yeah. So that's how I learned Unix. Really, I took the Unix class, and then I had the Sobel book, and between the two of those, just using it over the years. And when you see it, when you meet a Unix wizard, like there's a physics professor here at our campus called Craig Vandergraff, and the dude looks like a Unix wizard. Like he's got the second I saw him, I'm like, that guy does Unix. And sure enough, he came with us on our field trip to the Computer History Museum, and the two of us started talking, and I was just like, man, this guy is amazing. He's just the coolest dude. He was just like, yeah, sure, I can run a summer workshop for your students for free. Why not? So he drove down from the foothills, right, every day for a week over the summer and did a workshop with students, teaching them. And he was handing out, flyers and teaching them Raspberry Pi stuff and all this stuff. He's just a cool dude. And yeah, he knows Unix really well. And so my advice is when you meet somebody like that, just see how they do things, because they're going to have shortcuts. They're going to have tricks and commands that you've never seen before. And it's the same way for Vim. If you ever meet somebody who's good at Vim, just watch what they're doing. And when they do something cool, just go, whoa, wait. What did you do there? For example, Santanu Banerjee, who was our adjunct here for a while, and he's now at Fresno State. Santanu, he was just typing some things in Vim, and I was like, whoa, stop, what was that? And he's like, oh, well, I did this. And I was like, and now I do it, right? And so if you ever get to hang out with a Unix person or a Vim wizard, just see what they're doing. And that's a reason why when I'm typing, I'm telling you the keystrokes I'm doing. 4S, escape, dot. I'm narrating that so you guys can learn the keystrokes that I'm doing, so it doesn't just look like magic on the screen. Okay. So bing bang, exclamation, runs the last command again. So for example, that will run if I ran htop. If htop was the last thing I ran, bing bang will run it again. One thing you'll see me do a lot of is bang v. That means run the last command that began with the letter V, and that's going to be a Vim command, right? Run the last command that began with G. That's the grep that I did. If you type history, you can see all the different commands you have here, and you can actually run them by number. So bang 10,068, and that will run that command again. Okay, so there's a whole history that it keeps track of, and you can do that. If you make a typo, you can use caret. So like if I typed viz main.cc, command not found, caret viz caret vim, and it will correct it will spell check, kind of. That will fix the, like, have you ever seen people on text use caret? That's where it comes from. So that will change the viz to a vim. Control U erases the entire line, and I type a bunch of stuff. Control U, Control Y, Control U, Control L. I do a lot. Control L refreshes the screen. Control D logs out. So if I become if I hit Control D, that's the end of file character. Control D is end of file. That's how you get out of a lot of Unix utilities. If you try typing sort, there's no escape. It doesn't end. It only ends when it reads an end of file character. And so in order to get out of all of these Unix utilities without killing it, with Control C, you hit Control D, and then it sorts the results. But Control D also, if I hit it, logs you out. So it's a fast way of logging out as well. What is the difference between AWS and Linode Linux VM? Linode is, AWS is like designed as a compute resource, right? So you can spin up and spin down flexible amounts of computing nodes to support your workload. Linode is a server. It's a Linux box, and so it's not easy to spin up and spin down new Linodes, but it's just a machine that exists. A virtual machine for Ubuntu for my last CSI class. Yeah, you can run VirtualBox on a PC as well. Yeah, I like having a server in a data center. I mean, it's $20 a month. It's like what people pay for like an MMORPG, and it's my main development box where I do most of my work. So it's pretty affordable, And probably I don't even need the $20 version of it, except you guys are on it. So okay, so so Unix is a IDE, and that's something a lot of people don't get. It was designed to do computer science development, and everything else is sort of incidental to it, right? Control L refreshes the screen. Like I said, you probably see me do that a lot. Control L. You could also type. Got some stuff on the screen. You can type clear. Clear does the same thing. I also have CLS. CLS is the DOS command to clear the screen, and so I have it alias because it's less typing. Whatever is less typing, I use it. When you compile code on the server, it is compiling on the server. The server is doing the compilation. There's no connection to your machine at all. The only thing your machine is doing is PuTTY is got a terminal connection to it. That's it. If you want, you can actually run I think if you run X, I think you can actually run X Windows and tunnel the desktop to your local machine. So you can actually connect to the server with like icons and mouse support and that kind of stuff. I've done it before. I don't know why, but you would, but you can do it. I'm gonna have a file explorer, like you can have something like that, You can do it, yes. Okay. So Control D is the end of file character. Yeah, that's really important to know. Control G is the beep character. So if you want to echo a beep, you have to use Control V. Control V is not paste. Control V is the quote character. And so if you want to embed any of these special characters like Control L, so for example, if you want to echo, let's get some nonsense up on here. So if you want to echo the Control L character, you can't just hit Control L because it'll immediately clear the screen, right? If you want to make a shell script that will clear the screen, what you can do is put an echo Control V followed by Control L, and then that will echo the clear character to the screen, and it will clear the screen for you. So that's very useful. If you echo Control V, Control G, that echoes the beep character. I have it turned off, but you can make your program beep at you if you want. That literally used to be a bell in the old teletype machines, it would literally ring a bell. And so if you wanted to get somebody's attention on their machine, you could echo the bell. Literally ring something to get their attention. Okay. So CD, you can save the directory in. You can restore the directory you're in. One really useful thing is CD minus, which takes you to the last directory you're in. So if I go back home, you can go back home by just typing CD. And if I want to go back into the easy peasy source directory, I can CD minus, and that takes me back in there. So that takes you to the last directory you're in. Very useful stuff if you're hopping between two directories a lot. Otherwise, you can push your home directory, go there, and then do other stuff, CD up, CD up, CD etc, whatever, navigate around, and then whenever you want to go back to the place you saved, you pop the directory, and it takes you back there. Look, push, pop, it's a stack. Yep. So last push, let's go there, and let's push CSI. And if you type dirs, it shows you all the different directories that are saved onto the stack, and then you can pop directories off to go back to those saved locations before. How's it different from LL data structure nodes? AWS and Linode are very different. AWS is designed like if you've got compute needs, like let's say you've got an app and the app needs to process things. As more people use your app, your compute needs go up, and so AWS has EC2, and you can dynamically allocate more computing resources to support your app. And then when people stop using your app, it goes down, and you pay for what you use. Whereas with Linode, it's basically like you've got a server, you've bought a server, and you have a certain amount of CPU time and stuff like that. How's it different from linked list data structure nodes? A data structure node it holds a variable. AWS is like a computer. It's kind of different. A lot. I have 2 centuries of Unix experience, thanks to the time machine and immortality drug I invented. It's a lot of words for 2. Cat will dump the contents of a file. Man is very useful. If you want to get information on any of these Unix commands, man is there for you. Man shuff will show you how to shuffle the input. Man sort. Man grep. So man is the manual pages. Has nothing to do with men and women. Has to do with the man pages. Time will tell you how long a program takes to run. Time, man. So it's the manual page. And then after you quit, it tells you that it took 5 seconds to run. It ate up this much CPU time. Okay. Yeah. That is broken right now. Uploading, downloading files, PS, Control-Z. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. That's enough for today. Let's talk about the homework. So Unix, long story short, is because we don't have CSI 80 right now, a lot, I will happily talk your ear off about Unix and different things you can do in Unix. If you want to see how the auto grader works, I can run you through my shell scripting. That this is the auto grader, by the way. It's 500 lines of code, 500 lines of shell scripting. And it does a lot of stuff, and I can run you through that some other time maybe. It's cool stuff. I'll talk your ear off about it. But until we get a CSI 80 class here, basically buy the Stovell book, run through the tutorial on Surrey, and honestly, I was able to go to the bar and drink beer and play pool when my friends were stuck in a computer lab all day. Why? Because I wrote a shell script to do all those runs for me. I wrote a shell script that ran the program over and over again with different array sizes, with different CPU configurations, and it ran all weekend, right? And it took the results and put them into a file and concatenated the files together and all this other stuff. And I just hit return, and then I went to rock bottom and got some beers with my friends and played pool. While my other friends, my dumb friends, were stuck in the computer lab all day manually running these things once every 10 minutes. No, thank you. No, thank you. Learn to automate your life. You will be much, much happier. Okay. Okay. So, can we do Vim commands next class? Sure. Yeah. And the way I learned Vim was like what I told you. I actually had a cheat sheet of all the different Vim commands, the common Vim commands, and I actually had it taped up behind my computer. And every day I would look at a new one and be like, all right, I'm learning that one today. And I made sure to use it over and over again that day. And over time, I just became good at different Vim commands. And like I said, other Vim people have their own workflow and things like that they're good at. And so if you ever get the opportunity, just see how a Vim wizard does it, and you will learn. You will learn stuff. I hit rock bottom. No, I went to rock bottom. I went to rock bottom. Rock bottom was a beer place across the street from UC San Diego. And so in grad school, we'd go there to drink and have a good time. UCSD is in La Jolla, which is a very rich. It's like the richest neighborhood in San Diego, and so it's a weird place for a college town because most college towns have pizza places and brew pubs and nightclubs and things like that surrounding them. At UCSD, you're in La Jolla, which is nice. It's really nice and upscale and stuff like that. So they didn't have any bars actually, really, for college students until Rock Bottom opened up, and there's like one tiny little pub on campus. And that's it. Like, it's not a party school. Yeah. So Rock Bottom. Yeah. Okay. Just golf courses. Yeah. Torrey Pines is a nice golf course right next to UCSD. Okay. So let's talk about the homework. Hitting rock bottom. Okay, so there's a couple different files that I've given you. You don't have to use any of them. You can throw them all away and write this thing from scratch. I wouldn't throw away the README file. That's probably important. You can throw away everything else if you want. And so I've given you a sample make file, which will compile main.cc. It doesn't do anything with either this file or this file. These files are sample bridges files that show you how to make a circular doubly linked list. And it's a circular doubly linked list of students. And so this is a header file that just has information on students. And they just made a little data structure that holds names and stuff like that. It's a very simple class. So the question was, how does ncurses work? Okay, cool. So ncurses is new curses. What is curses? It's when you swear at somebody. Curses is okay. So one big issue with cn, right? Like if you use cn and cout, it's not very good, right? Especially for our needs, right? Cout, please enter a name. Used to using the read library. Let's go back into bool. Okay, so string s, so annoying to do it this way, and then cn into s. So rather than using read, I'm doing it the traditional C++ way. And so what's the problem with this? What's the problem with this? Anyone? It's not really a problem. It's not a bug, right? It's not really a bug, but what's the problem with this? Let's comment out all the rest of this stuff here. cn stops after a space or a tab or a new line. Okay, sure. Absolutely true. So if we, now let's see it out. Visitor name, Bob Craney. Right. So, probably want to use getLine or something like that. Line cn into s, and we need string s. Username, Bob Kearney. Okay, works. Cool. What's the problem with this? The problem with this is that your program stops, right? Like if you're, let's say you're trying to print, let's say you're trying to make Snake or something like that. Do you guys know Snake? Snake is one of these games where you've got like a snake or something, and so the game stops running. If you know, while you're waiting for the name to be typed in, the game will stop, and that's not very fun. Imagine if World of Warcraft stopped every time somebody had to hit a keystroke. You know, that'd be really dumb. What you need is a game that keeps running, and if they don't type anything, they don't type anything. Okay. So, Snake, yeah. So if so this is called cooked mode. Okay. So this is called cooked mode input, and it's what you guys are used to. It's what you've been doing all along in CSI 40 and 41. And so if you were to, for example, run the program and type in Bill Kearney, nothing happens. Nothing happens until I hit new line. All right, and that's usually not what you want in a video game. The thing is paused right now. Like literally, it is sitting there and blocking. It is waiting for me to hit return. It will do nothing else in the meantime. Okay, you could do it multi-threaded, I guess, but that presents its own set of issues. But look, I can erase things. You see that? So I typed in letters, and then I can erase them. Look, even the Unix command prompt is cooked, right? So in cooked mode, what happens is it will not register anything. The program is not aware of anything until the user hits enter. And this is not good for a video game or any sort of interactive input. Okay, this is not what you want. It's great for everything we've done so far. It's great for a Unix shell, you know, because the Unix shell, you know, you want somebody to correct themselves, possibly, you know. Right. Interesting. Dir is the MS-DOS way of doing ls. Okay. So you should be using read. No, but that's actually not the point here. The point here is that even read is going to do a, it's going to block. It's going to block, it pauses your program until you hit enter. Okay. That's not what you want for a video game. Video game should be running in real time. So there is CD minus. Look, there is a library called incurses, and incurses is the standard way. No man entry, great. Incurses is a standard way of doing raw mode input, where you can run your program. You can run your program, and I'm just hitting up arrow and down arrow and right arrow and left arrow, and I'm not having to hit enter for anything. So, and you see how it's drawing, like when you see out things, it just comes out on the next line, right? Like if I were to, you know, see out different things. Right, they just all come out on the next line, and I type something, and it just comes out on the next line, and it just sits there and it scrolls. Right? It just scrolls off the top of the screen. That's your standard cooked mode thing. It's just a scrolling log. And I can mouse wheel up, you know, maybe and, you know, view my old stuff. Incurses is after C++ 11. No. Incurses is not C++ at all. Incurses is a C library, much to its detriment, in my opinion. It is an old library. Dickey is the name of the guy that made it. That's controversial. Who made incurses? That's controversial. There's a big controversy over that in like the late 90s. But basically, Dickey is the guy that runs it now, and he's been running it for 20 years now. Richard Stallman got involved, and it was like this big drama, like from 20-something years ago. So yeah, ncurses is a C library, and this is how traditionally in Unix programs like Vim, you know, actually I don't know if Vim uses it or not, but you see how it's like I can hit up arrow and down arrow. Like ncurses is traditionally used for making things like that. Okay, and if you don't want to use it, then I've got my color library, which is a C++ equivalent of ncurses. And so if you use my library, you can use these commands here. Move cursor will move the cursor on the screen. So like if you hit up arrow and down arrow, right arrow, that'll move the cursor around. So you just pass it a row and a column, and it will move it to the row and the column. That clears the screen. This turns on if the cursor is visible or not. You can turn off the cursor so it hides it, or turn on the cursor so it's visible. This will return a pair. Look, we learned pairs last time. This is going to return the terminal size, how many rows and columns you have. This allows you to change the foreground color. It allows you to change the background color. And so if you guys want to use that thing, colors demo, you can push out that code. Sudo deploy homework csci41 colors demo. Ooh, that's going to copy a lot of JPEGs. Sudo deploy homework csci41 colors demo, and so you can take a look at that, and it's got color demo.cc, and so this shows. Actually, is that? No, maybe that's not the right one. Yeah, okay, so here's the source code to my SCAD program that does image viewing in the terminal. And so you can see, I don't know. Yeah, I could post demo source code, I guess, for that. Kind of running out of time, so let me just go with ncurses for now. That possibility does exist. There is documentation for the colors header file on GitHub that I can post. But anyway, so the question was, how does ncurses work? So you include ncurses.h. And when you compile your code, you need to make sure that you're linking in the ncurses library. One of the nice things about using my library is that it doesn't require any of that. All you have to do is hashtag include colors.h, and there you go. And you can change the color of things on the screen. You can move the cursor to a place, draw a character there, move the cursor somewhere else, draw a character there, turn on raw mode easily, get keystrokes without having to hit return easily. So. Can you see some examples of the best RPG 41 submissions that students have made? Yeah, but I don't have time. We got 14 minutes left, so let me just go through what we got out here. So what I've given you is a map class. You don't have to use it again, and the map class is a 2D array of characters, and so it's just a 2D array of characters. It's just the world, and it is a 100 by 100 vector, and it displays a 10 by 10 area, or 20 by 20, probably 20 by 20, because it's set to 20. That comment's probably wrong. Okay, and so the init map function is, it's like a constructor, right, except it can be invoked repeatedly. One of the reasons why you don't want to put something like this into a constructor is that a constructor only gets called once, right? And what I have is my constructor calls init map. But if the user ever wants to reset the map, they can call init map. So a lot of times you want your constructor to just call an init function, so that if it's something that you want to like be able to reset your class, doing something like this is probably a good idea. Okay, so how does this thing draw stuff? Okay, how does this thing draw stuff? So first of all, in main, there is a function called turn on incurses. And so you want to call that at the beginning of your code. And when you quit, you should call turn off incurses. And that cleans up everything. Okay. And so you don't have to worry about what any of this stuff means. Just realize it enables incurses mode. Full screen mode. Okay. And so inside of main, it's already doing that. First line of code there, turn on incurses. Bottom line, turn off incurses. Okay. So what it's going to do is it's going to do gitch over and over again. Gitch is how you do non-blocking I/O using incurses. My code has something called quick read, which works basically the same way. And gitch will return the keystroke when you hit it. If you hit the I key, it will return I. If you return up arrow, it returns up, which looks like this. These constants are all defined in incurses.h. And if the user doesn't type anything, which is what's going to be the case 99% of the time, then error is returned, which means nothing was typed in, and it does nothing. Okay. So this is how you read characters. Do not use cin, do not use cout. I don't know if you guys heard that. Don't use cin, don't use cout. Okay? For this assignment. Cin and cout do not play well with incurses. They move the cursor around, and they will cause your code to explode. If you want to print things out to the screen, use mvprintw. That's what you guys should be doing for this assignment. If you are in incurses mode, use mvprintw. mvprintw says move the cursor to this row, this column, print this string. Okay? So this is an example of how you can print a couple integers using mvprintw. Your C++ brain should be good at copying and pasting and modifying. That's, learning through modification is one of the best ways of learning computer science. Okay, so all you really need to know is mvprintw and gitch. That's it for this assignment. All the other incursive stuff doesn't really matter that much. Okay. I've got a function to turn on. Check it out, girl. What do you think? Pretty cool. Arrow keys. Report about printw. Yeah, you can use printw. mvprintw. It's just printw without the move, right? And so there's various versions of the print functions for incurses. mvprintw is the one I always use because I usually want to know where I'm printing something. Printw without it prints wherever the cursor is, which can be wherever. Now, if you know where it's going to be, then yeah, sure, use it. But in general, mvprintw moves to a row and a column, and it prints a string there. And that's how you can see down there.
So many different things.
It's a randomly generated map, girl. It's a world of excitement and adventure with treasures and monsters and walls and water. Okay. Okay. So the x location is vec(x). No, it's a 2D array. So you have to use a vector, vector.at.at, vector.at row .at column, and that will pull out the character at row and column. Okay. It'll return a char. Yeah. So this is a 2D array of chars. A char is going to be something like a $sign or a M or something like that. Okay. And to change it, you write to it. Vector.at5.at10 equals hashtag. We'll put a wall at row 5 column 10. Yeah, so read through map.h. Okay, vim map.h, and so this is the class that will that has the actual 2D map in it. Init map randomly generates a map. Draw, it gets the current x and y location of the player, and then it figures out which chunk of the map to draw around it. And no, okay, so it is, yeah, okay. Bounds check to handle the edges. Okay, so this is how you draw things using incurses. So this turns on underlining in bold. So the player, so if we're currently drawing the player's location, it turns on underline in bold mode. I don't know if you guys saw this, but when you run it, the H has a little underline underneath it, and it's bolded. The hero is bold and underlined. You do that using that command there. You turn it off using that command there, and it's going to draw a character. It's not printing a string, it's printing a character. So mv edge moves to this row, to this column, and prints an H there. Okay. And this is how you access things from the map. Map.at_row.at_column equals wall. And so what it's doing is it's changing the color based on what is at that location in the map. So if it's water, it changes the color to 2, which is blue. If it's a hero, it changes it to white. If it's a treasure, it changes it to yellow. And a monster, whatever monsters were, walls are red. Okay. And then that's how you change colors using incurses. And then it draws that letter at that location. And that's all the incurses you need to know. It's only a couple pages long. The init map is just a random map generator, and then the draw will draw a 20 by 20 chunk of the world around the player. Okay. So how do you do the combat window? Well, if you guys want, if you want to switch back into like a different window for combat, you can turn off incurses. So you could, when you walk over a monster, you could turn off incurses and then use C in and C out. Boom, 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 hit, hit, hit. You can do it that way, and then after you win the combat, turn incurses back on. That works. Just don't use C in and C out when you're in incurses mode. When you're in incurses mode, don't use C in and C out. Use mv print w, use mv edge. Okay? Those are the, C in and C out are for not in incurses mode. When you're in incurses mode, use mv print w, mv edge. Okay. And so, would there be bad screen tear or flickering if you're showing a bigger map? Let's find out. So let's set this to be a 40 by 40. Pretty smooth. Yep. So yeah, you get flickering if you're constantly clearing and redrawing the screen when you don't need to. Don't call clear unless you have to. So are we supposed to have only one H, right? Yeah, you should not leave an H behind. You need to, the player should be moving, not leaving a trail of H's behind. Yeah, so where will you have to implement the function to see if there's a wall? I would do it in main. So in main, you can grab, before you move left, see if it's a wall. Okay, you've got a map. That's the map. It's got all the map data in it. And you can say like if map.at y x.at x at row y column x equals map : wall. So if the new location is a wall, then bounce or something. Okay. And it's like, oh, you can't access that, right? Cool. Right, because it's private. And so as it is right now, the map class, you can't get at the data on it. So what do you need to do? Right now, there is no way of getting the map data out of the map class. So what do you need to do? Don't consider my code to be done, because it's not. What do you need to do? If you were making a properly designed class, what do you need to do? There's two options here. You can go the diligent student route, or you can go the lazy student route. Either way, it's fine. Yeah, you just have to ask yourself, am I going to be a diligent student or a lazy student? What's the answer? Because this is what you need to do, Bazookian. Inside of main.cc, you need to have code, like this. Right? But you can't access map dot, it's not map dot at, what is it? It's map dot, it's map dot at. Yeah, maybe I should have named it something different. I don't know. Okay, so rather than doing it this way, so nobody's answered, really? Okay. Oh no, I scrolled up. Yes, diligent students. So the lazy student approach is to make it public, right, and just allow it to be written and read to. The diligent student is you're going to need to write a get function, like get value, passing in a x and y or something like that, right? So write it. There is no getter, there is no setter on the map class. Okay, and then so I would write a getter and a setter for the map class. That's what I do. Okay. We need a friend? Probably not. Diligent yet a bit confused. Do you see this, Ephraim? The map is held in a private member variable. So one thing you can do is you can just, make it public. I wouldn't. I would write, to do, write a getter and a setter to get set the characters in the map. That's what I do. Write a getter and setter. Okay. So given a row, given a column, return the character there. And or set the character at a given column, and so you can move around. So, yeah. And you feel free to modify this however you want. What I give you is not done, right? It's just enough to show you how ncurses can draw on the map. Does that mean we can't use .at? If this is private, you cannot. If it is private, you cannot use .at down here, right? You can't use map.at I. So you can't do it in main because you don't have access to it. Okay. I would write a getter and a setter. From inside of map.h, yeah, sure. Yeah, you can use .at from inside of here. I use it all the time, right? Like that. To save the file, we should get all the points on the map and save it in the file. Yeah, that's what I do. I do those too. Given a file name, write it to disk. Given a file name, load it from disk. Doubly nested for loop, done. Easy. I'd also write a save. You're going to have to make a hero class. The hero class should have a save function on it. It's sometimes called serialize and deserialize to save the state of your hero to disk and to load from a hero file back into all the variables inside of your class. So when we jump to new window for battle, we should save your location in the map. Yeah, I wouldn't. I would just, not save to disk. Like, you just leave the variables alone. right? So you go into fight screen, fight the monsters, and then when you're done, you go back into the world map. Probably just when you quit. Yeah, when you quit, you save. Or if you implement like a save command, when you launch the game, you can ask them, do you want to create a new game or continue an old game? Okay. All right, any other questions? How to move the screen to middle? I don't know what that means. I mean, move the screen to middle. Like you want to center it. See if I have it in here. Yeah, I don't think I actually get how big the screen is on this.
I think you do it in map, or no, you never actually grab it. I remember that.
Yeah, there's an incurses command to get the number of rows and columns on the screen.
Yeah.
And so what you do is you just move. I've done that on some of my examples. So you move the cursor to rows divided by 2, columns divided by 2, and that puts you in the middle of the screen. I guess you can use my colors library for that. If you include, because I don't remember how to do this on incurses, but it should work the same way here. So if you call this function here called get terminal size, Bazookian, that will tell you how many rows and columns your.
You could also use the get max yx.
Is that it? Okay, so yeah, in incurses it's get max yx. In mine, you'd put that line of code in, and they should interoperate fine, and that will tell you how many rows and columns the screen has, and then you would just start drawing from like if it's 80 by 40 or whatever, then, and you're going to draw 20 lines, then you're like, okay, it's 60. So you do the algebra and you just move the cursor to that spot and start drawing from there. What does combat look like? Moya, what class were you in? 10 a.m. last year?
Yeah, 10 a.m.
Spring, Seaside, 41. Spring, 20, CD, RPG. 1, CD, Moya. Did you not turn in? Hazelton's here. Let's run his. Make.
My RPG 41 was way too ambitious and it ended up becoming No Man's Sky. So definitely not worth looking at.
Guzman, was he your partner on it?
Yeah, like he had the same as me. We were the same. But that's how I created the mapmaker. I guess that's a plus.
Okay, so yeah, look at that flickering.
If you want to just see.
So this is what happens. This is what happens when you do see outs in the middle of incurses. You get these weird diagonal things like this, because CN and C out fight with incurses over where the cursor should go. So where's yours, Leah? Are you sure you're running the 12 o'clock class?
What I would do is I'd go to the Seaside 40 and go to my Pokemon part 2. That would actually be a good example of end curses working.
Okay, so that was 10 a.m.
10 a.m. Fall of 2019.
Seaside 40, fall of 2019. CD, Pokemon part 2?
Yeah.
CD... Wait. what do you do? Attack or flee? You could do that, yeah. All right, so yes, cannot load Pokemon text.
Don't tell him? Okay.
That's rather unfortunate.
Public Pokemon.text. Public news.text.
Yeah, this is very bad. Oh, it's Pokemon types. Wait a second.
Yeah, it didn't copy over your data files.
That's annoying. I'm sorry.
All right, copy from home wkearney csci homework Pokemon part 2 dot reference Pokemon to text to here, and actually let's just copy star dot text to be here. Okay, run. There we go. All right, which one do you want to do? Battle or explore?
I didn't do battle because
Explore. Okay. New game. Okay, so you can see that he's got different options here. I'll pick Pikachu, of course. A wild Tangela appeared. Go Pikachu. Fight. Tackle. And I died. Okay, cool. New game.
it's hard mode.
Right, so here's a world map, and you can walk around on it, and you'll encounter. There we go. Poke Center worker, welcome to the Poke Center. I don't have any monies. Okay. Anyway, so that's the idea. You know, if you want to do combat, switch to a different screen and stuff like that. Okay. Just do that. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that took me probably 20 hours as a CSEC 40 person. Probably more than that, actually.
Did you get an A on it?
I got above an A.
Above an A. That's good. I was going to say you should get extra credit for that. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that's the idea of what we're looking for. So that was a CSI 40 student doing that. And so you're in CSI 41 now. You should be able to figure out incurses. If not, if it's really all beyond you, just use C in and C out. It's fine. Okay. Can you have a screen within a screen? Yeah, Muya can show you how to do that. You can open up windows inside of windows like that, so they pop over the screen and they can go away. I would probably just, I don't know, have different rows of the screen have different text being put in. Okay. So that's it for today, guys. Good luck, have fun, and make sure you get a partner. Please have partners. I really don't want to see people working solo on this.